Okay, so we're back, and now we have a couple of things set up. So what you'll see now is the two cameras that we had before. We have them on the rail. The two cameras are now on the rail, and this rail is going to slide home on the top of the tripod. So let's do that first. Let's go ahead and set these cameras up on the tripod so we can kind of see how those are going to be configured. So I'm going to move the camera a little bit. Hopefully you can kind of see how this is going to look. I'm going to move this a little closer, and it looks like it's not open, but we'll do that right now. All right, looks like they're in. And it's in. All right. So now this guy is, you can kind of see, it is, the cameras are now gripped into the rail. There are two cameras on our tripod. I'll see if I can lift it up just a bit more so you can see. We have two cameras on our tripod, presumably one facing the archer, one facing the target. And now we are going to go ahead and set up the rest of the configuration. Mostly everything stays the same. The only major difference that we have is the change in, we're going to have one change, and that's going to be this bike mount. We're actually going to take the bike mount that we have, and I'm going to try to walk you through this a little bit, but we're also going to take the one bike mount. We took it off from the first configuration, and now we're going to add a second configuration. And I'm just going to add, if you can kind of see this, this is one loop with a closed set configuration and a drop configuration all on one strap. And I'm going to put both of those together, and then I'm going to screw them in so that both of these, so that means I can hang two things on the same tripod from the same connector. One of these, the short one's going to be the battery, the drop one is going to be the splitter. So that's the goal. So now I'm going to try to put this back on here. This takes a little bit of effort to get on there. So I'm actually looking for the rubber cap that goes in there, and that's going to keep the pieces in play. I'm just going to sit it on there, and they kind of sit in between the legs pretty good. So I'm going to move this around and then try to my best to get this set up. This is a bit of a doozy. Come on, come on. Once you get it in there, it's okay. All right, it's in. It's in. So now I need to screw it in, screw it down so it's tight. So I got the screw. Remember that screw from the last time. And I just kind of put it on there. I fix it in there. And as I start screwing it in, it'll tighten up, which is the most important part. So once you get that, you just start screwing it in. And it'll keep going down. Things will get tighter and tighter as you screw it down. So you're just going to make sure that they're in the right spots for you. And it looks like we're good. Looks like we're good. Probably that could come out a little bit more. All right, I think that's good enough. So now I'm ready to start hooking everything else up. Now, mind you, I mentioned there's two battery compartments. Could you put battery here, battery there? Yes, but then you have a bigger splitter device that you need to figure out how to hold. So usually what I do is I just use a small bag and hang it from the hook underneath to put the second battery for the transmitter. It's not a big deal, but let's go ahead and start hooking up everything. I'm going to go ahead and put hang the power cables. Go ahead and get the power cable set up for the cameras. Let's go ahead and get the adapters in there, and I'm just going to work my way down, and you'll see how all this stuff kind of comes together. So I don't have the camera lifted up high enough for you to see the me plugging in things, but just suffice to say, it's pretty straightforward. You just plug in the cables as you would normally do if you were charging your camera, and from there we just plug in, just like what you saw in the first video. It's a pretty straightforward process, but we'll get them in there because, like I said, I want to get this set up fully. I want to have this thing fully configured and set up for this video. All right, making good progress, making good time. And this is almost setting up from scratch. So as I said before, once you have this thing fully set up, you don't have to screw in all these extra attachments and stuff. Things get a lot easier because all you're doing is just clamping in your cameras, or you're clamping in your batteries and locking them down, and it's pretty straightforward. All right, so everything's hanging off the cameras. We have a little bit of everything. We got two of everything kind of coming out of the kit. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. So we're ready for, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I attach the transmitter. It can go one of two ways. Looks like it starts like this, and then it turns. Now you can kind of see it's kind of bumping up against the transmitter. I just turned the transmitter out of the way, and then it kind of clips into place. You see, that's pretty sturdy. It goes in there pretty good. The two HDMI cables coming in. Make sure you put these in HDMI 1 and 2. Don't put them in 3 and 4. The box starts wigging out because it doesn't know how to treat the video. I thought that was very interesting. I thought my device was broken, but it's not. It's just a byproduct of not putting it in the right connector. So that's okay. That's okay. So now we're going to go ahead and affix the battery. This is the same as what we configured last time. So the good news about having the battery here, again, is you can plug in both of your cameras. So the cameras are about to be fully powered up. Make sure I get that plugged in there. Can't get them. And then, remember, we have to plug in our HDMI here. And this, or not HDMI, but our USB-C into our transmitter, from our battery to our transmitter. So now both our cameras are plugged in. They're fully ready to go. Our transmitter is plugged in, but we don't have an HDMI yet. HDMI is going into the transmitter. The only HDMIs are going into the splitter box. The splitter box is unique. I chose this specific model because it's a little pricier, but it does have picture-in-a-picture. And it's a proportional picture-in-a-picture, which means that it actually allows for a 16:9 rather than a 4:3 or a square pixel standard definition style output. So it actually does maintain the quality of the video going in, which is really nice. So the last component here is to plug in an HDMI directly into the box here. So let me see if I have my last little HDMI. Plug this in from the output here to the input here, and it's golden. Oh, I forgot the whole extra battery. So we have another barrel connector. That's funny. Have a barrel connector here. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug in barrel connector there, power there. As I mentioned, I just throw this in a bag, and I'm just going to hook it onto the bottom of the tripod. So when I fully extend the tripod goes up. Everything in the center stays pretty much the same. You got a lot of cables flying everywhere. Some of this could be cleaned up and tightened up. I could shove the extra cable into the bag because that's going to always stay pretty close to the transmitter. But everything else will clean up as I fully extend upward. But you can kind of see everything is ready to go. All the cables are in. And what's going to come out of that is what comes right out of the transmitter is two video signals going into the transmitter, and it's one video, picture-in-a-picture. You can swap those. You can have obviously the Archer as the primary focus, or the target as the primary focus, depending on your point that you want to capture. And that's it. Yeah, so that's the two configurations set up. I'm going to be working on future configurations for online streaming, but for now, that should get us covered for our standalone digital scope. Thank you for joining.